everybody. Welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorous Magazine, and this is Talkward, a fun little podcast where professionally funny people come to tell awkward and cringeworthy stories. I'm very excited about today's guest. She is a delightful comedic actress, writer, performer, character actress, so many things, and I recently saw her in a very fun show down in South Park Slope, and we'll talk all about that. And she has a fantastic new exciting show called Ancestry.comedy that we're going to learn all about. Please welcome to the show, Lauren LoGiudice. Hello, Lauren.
Hello. How's it going? I was just filming a sketch, and I was like, I have to obviously wear this to say hello to you.
Well, it looks great. I love, you look sharp.
Yeah, we'll get to the point.
You really got to the point. I can't think of any eraser jokes right now. So...
Oh, I've done this one. Like, my, different pencils have different personalities, like humans, Sometimes people have erasers that crumble pretty easily. Yeah. Oh, they're a little dry.
For those of us listening and not watching, Lauren has entered the interview wearing a gigantic pencil costume. And it is very classic mascot-esque pencil costume that you might see her. Maybe she's part of a PSA for children's education, and she's telling them about literacy, and she would come tap dancing on the screen wearing a gigantic pencil costume. But she's just sitting in a interview situation wearing the pencil costume. And this is actually fun because you and I met in person recently, but I didn't know that you were even in New York City because I knew you because you were a comedy writer, and then you've written some stuff that I've seen, and you were nice enough to submit some stuff to Weekly Humorous to get published. It's very funny stuff, and I thought you were an LA-based actress, performer person. And then I randomly went to a show in Brooklyn, up the street from me, at this bar called Young Ethel's. It was a great little show put on by the Greener Pastures people, run by Amy Curl, and then you were a character on the show, and you were a character that was a Gen Z mom, and I was looking at the bill, and I was like, Lauren LoGiudice. He's like, is that the same Lauren that I'm thinking of, who's the writer-performer? And then you went up there, and you just, you knocked it out of the park, and you were so funny, and you had this, you're such a character actor, like you stay such in character, I didn't even know. And then you had me on stage as an audience participant, but you picked me not knowing who I was, which was also very hilarious.
I had no idea, and I wonder if people in the audience who did know who you were like, did she just pick Marty Dundix?
Did she just pick the only old person in this show? Like, everyone's like a young 20s hip comedy person, and then there's just like this like crusty old man sitting by himself.
I mean, that like a producer and someone who's an editor of a humor magazine, like you just picked.
And it was great. And I got to be on stage, and you got to be the Gen X mom.
Gen X mom. So I've been playing with that a little bit about like what to call her, because she is, she isn't like, I wouldn't say she is of the Gen X generation. She does, but she's so like specific to who she is. She's a Westchester mom, former New York City clubber, party girl who got married, now divorced, dealing with that, and you come down to New York and telling the children how to like behave correctly, which means party more.
Yeah, definitely. There's a dynamic in some of these Gen X. I want to be friends with my kids. I don't want to be a parent.
Yes, and she's mad that like her son is preferring instead to do a lot of. She's like, here's some Jello shots, and her son's like, I want to do self-care, and she's like, fuck you.
Yeah, she's trying to push the party lifestyle, and she wants to hang out and be a cool mom, and the kid's like, Mom, I just want to do my homework and be successful in school and get good grades, and she's kind of constantly just like dissing her kid. So I was the kid, right? I think I was. I was the kid.
Well, yeah. So I end up having this role play where she's using it to a role play, which she's using to understand how to talk to Gen Z, which is really just lines from The Graduate.
Yeah.
Doctored up a bit. But now I'm actually going to make it not so much about her son. She's just going to I think she's going to bring someone up and be like, all right, I just want to talk to, I just think you guys don't know how to talk to older women like me, and this is how. So then it's like more blatantly, she's just trying to create a situation in which she can flirt with someone very younger than her.
And of course, you pick the only old person in the crowd up.
Oh,
Totally
yeah?
did.
Well,
That's
you know.
fine. I like being.
I thought you were. Listen, Marty, you look
It was
great.
very dark.
I thought you
It
were
was
in your
very
20s.
dark, and that's nice. I appreciate it. I always get. It's interesting because maybe there's something very kind of plain about me, but I get picked to do things on stage. I'm always like, don't pick me, and then I get picked, and then I do it, and it's funny. But like when I was a kid, same thing happened. Like I remember I was in the audience. I would always go to see magic shows. My dad would always take me to see magic shows, and I would go. I grew up outside of Baltimore, in a small town called Severna Park, and we would go into Baltimore to see. David Copperfield would come, Penn and Teller would come, and I remember when I was probably like 12-ish, maybe 12, 12, 11, and I went to a Penn and Teller show, and I got picked to go up on stage, and I had to do something. I had to throw something into a dartboard. Like there was like this crazy huge dartboard across the stage, and I had to like throw it almost like a javelin. I had to throw this thing into the dartboard, like a big dart into the dartboard. And it was like and there was like a little bit of a drum roll, and I did it, and it hit it, and everybody kind of cheered, like a little cheer. And then I sat down, and my time was over. And then there was a girl who was younger, who was after me, and she was doing the same thing for some reason. I can't remember what the trick was, and it took her like 10 tries to do it. And then she finally got it, and the crowd goes wild. They were so happy. And then Penn Jillette comes over. He goes, "Where's that kid who was here earlier? Where's Marty? Where's Marty?" And he goes, "Hey, do you see how the crowd erupted after she finally got it after 10 tries? And you got it after 1 try. And you didn't get any applause. Get used to that, kid. It's gonna be like that your whole life." I was like, "Thank you, Penn Jillette. That was wonderful wisdom for a 11-year-old."
Yeah, that's great encouragement.
Yeah.
I thought it would be more like, well, understand that when you try really hard at something and then you succeed, everyone's going to be on your side. That's the real lesson.
That's not what he told me.
Penn. That's fucking Penn, man. Let me tell you.
So anyway, so you do a lot of the shows, and then luckily, and then I got picked up to go up. You were at that Halloween show at the Young Ethels, also, and I went to that. And then there was a guy doing like a Dracula vampire haunted house thing, and I got pulled out of the audience for that too.
As well, I think I know why, and it's because when I'm looking in the audience, I'm looking to see, is anyone going to be an asshole? So you don't look like an asshole. I would like, and especially if someone's wearing like a loud shirt, that makes me think maybe they have a need to show themselves in some way. So you don't have that. You don't have it. You don't wear like loud colors. And you don't look like someone who is going to be an asshole. So that because most people, I've picked the wrong person, and it's been not, oh my God, I had a situation once where I do this bit where I have these audience members come out on stage, and they get crazy. So I really need people to participate. And one time I had this guy came up and he kissed one of the girls.
That's terrible.
Awful. Oh my God. And then another. Yeah, that's all. It was awful, and the girl thought it was funny. Thank God. Oh my God, I would have been. And then I was like, "This is just not. I will never have this happen again." So I fixed it so that can't happen again. But then another time, this woman was drunk, and I never should pick a drunk person. That's when I really learned you really have to be selective. Even if the drunk person's going to be like, pick me, and you like cannot let them on stage, ever, 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 ever. So you're not drunk. That's another thing. You're not drunk. You're not wearing loud colors.
Boring.
You look like an asshole, and that's why I will pick you every time.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I feel like everything about your definitely your dress. Like I used to be someone who would be maybe like fun colors or try, and then you get into just a comfort pattern, and now it's like all my shirts kind of look exactly. I have like 9 versions of the exact same V-neck sweater that I wear almost everywhere, and it's comfortable and it's nice and it matches everything, and the same thing with pants. And it's just like a very subdued palette, and it's just easy, and it matches everything. And I just do that now. I think maybe I just blend in a little bit, which is nice. But I will say, yesterday, I was down in Fide-Eye, and I was meeting Ivan Ehlers and his lovely wife Ariel, who is an illustrator, and they were in town from Los Angeles, and they are like New Yorker magazine people, and fun and creative, and he does a lot of daily cartoons for the New Yorker. So I went to meet them. So I was going down to FiDi, where I have my little office, and I was walking, and in New York City they have all these promotions, right? They have like people are giving out something, there's some new product, and then whatever, and they want you to try it. So I was walking by this hotel, and there was this big, like a mobile truck, but it was all glass. It was like all plexiglass, and then you went up the little stairs, and it was like there was like a changing room with like a curtain, and there's like people with cameras. They were filming like a promotional video thing to advertise some new product of clothing that's made from recycled material, and it's really soft and it's stretchy. And they stopped me, and they were like, "Sir, would you like to be part of this promotion?" Because I was wearing like basic, when it gets cold in New York City, you wear a black top coat, collar flipped up, and you just look a very certain plain New York way, right? Mm-hmm. That's like the New York uniform is black top coat, flipped up, maybe a little scarf, and you just look like this. So they pulled me out. They're like, "This guy looks like he's maybe a fashiony New York, maybe he likes comfortable clothes." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do this thing," right? Because they promised me a free shirt. I'm cheap. The guy was like, "We have this product. It's really great. These shirts are like $100 more or plus. If you do this, try it on. If you say you like it, we're going to maybe take some video, and then you get to keep the shirt if you want." And I was like, "All right, sounds good." Yeah. So I get in line, and it's not that long, and I go into this thing, and they have like cameras and stuff, and I have to go into this changing room, and this is in the middle of the street in FiDi. Like the car is parked on the side of the road. You can see into this truck. I'm up there just like in this little thing. I'm just like, I'll do anything for a free shirt apparently. Like I'm so cheap. So they say, "Okay, you get to try one of these shirts." There's like a clothing rack of these like nice men's shirts, like dress shirts, but they're stretchy and soft and wonderful. And there's nice white shirts, nice baby blue shirts. And they're all like, medium large is what I think. "Oh, what size are you?" "I'm probably a large in this shirt. It looks a little slim." "Okay, hold on." So the guy's like pulling out stuff, and he's like, "In large, we only have this one. And out of all of these beautiful shirts, they gave me one that's like this little polka dot. It's like a polka dot shirt." And I'm like, "Oh man, I really wear patterns." Yeah. So I put on the shirt, I try it on, I tuck it in. And then I'm wearing gray pants that are pinstripes. So I'm wearing pinstripe pants with this polka dot shirt, and they're filming. And I think it looks good. It looks whatever. I mean, it's soft, but it looks stupid on me, but that's my fault. It doesn't match what I'm wearing. And I'm like, "Yeah, this is great. It's nice." So I'm like, "Okay, it's a nice shirt. It's a little billowy. It's a little bit like a puffy shirt. It looks a little bit Seinfeld pirate shirt, but it looks good with maybe like a vacation wear. Like I don't know." And I was kind of like, I put it in my bag, and I have it. Do you want to see the shirt?
Yeah, I want to see it. And I love, by the way, that it was I love polka dots with stripe. That's awesome.
Well, maybe on other people.
It's unmatched.
This is not a bad looking shirt. This is nice. It's kind of silky and soft. And I was like, okay. And I went home and I tried it on with a sport coat. It looks really good with a sport coat. So it was a free shirt. I'm like, okay, I like this. It's a free shirt. I like it. It's soft, nice. It's called State of Matter. That's the brand. And I had to sign a release because they filmed me. And then I went home and I went on their Instagram, and I was like, oh, they had a little post about the truck, and I was like, oh, the post is there. Okay, that's a truck. And I looked at their Instagram stories. And the guy in front of me was there, and the people behind me were there, and I was not there. And they did not use me in their little promo. Everyone else got used, and they didn't like the polka dot striped pants or something, but I was left out, and I was totally offended.
Aw, I'm sorry. Aww,
so that's it. That was my little gripe that I had. But the shirt is very nice, and if you do want to see a commercial, possibly with me in it, it's called State of Matter, and it's made out of recycled materials.
Speaking of fashion, this pencil costume is getting my hot, so I'm going to take 2 seconds.
You're going to go into a little dressing room, and you're going to take off your... Oh, there it is. That was fast.
Yeah. There we go. Magic transformation.
Now I have your lumberjack shirt on.
I have my lumberjack shirt. I use this when I have to play. I audition a lot for Butch Lesbians because I have short hair. So obviously that's the only thing that the entertainment industry can conceive that I could be. Um, and they sometimes they don't say it as much. They're just like a little more masculine woman, or I'm always like the disagreeable one, or something.
Is this in TV
So
stuff or
stupid.
in commercials?
TV stuff, commercials. I just play. I mean, commercials are just
Yeah, you're a
moms,
mom.
right? Like that's who people advertise. Yeah.
And and
But
I mean, you've been doing. I mean, you were in Veep. What other things have I
yes.
seen you in?
I mean, Beep was like a little small role, but I got to work with Julia Louise, and that was cool. I've just done a bunch of
Weren't you? Were you
stuff.
on soap operas?
Um, I did a role on Married with Children, which was fun. But more fun than that, it's just fun. Like you do these things, and then it's who you meet or what you take from it. Like I met someone who had a solo show theater in New York, and I got to do a lot of work with her. She was the acting coach on all my children. I think it was a soap opera I was on. I'm forgetting now. I'm so awful. It was so long ago. But anyway, just like she was the acting coach, but also she had this like solo show theater and was able to like foster a lot of cool work in New York City, and some of that was mine. That was
That's
cool.
exciting.
You just never
And so
know.
you do,
Yeah,
and you do so much. Well, you do a lot of writing, and then the writing, you did a lot of stuff as the character of Melania Trump. So you did a lot of writing as Melania
mm-hmm.
Trump. You did McSweeney stuff. You were in
Mm.
Weekly Humorist. So you wrote a lot of stuff, and then you put all of that stuff. But then you also made a ton of videos. And let me put up. I'm gonna show for people that are watching
Oh wow.
at home. But if you're listening, you can see all the photos from Lauren's books and characters and stuff. You can see them on our website. But up on the screen here is a book that you put out called Inside Melania: What I Learned About Melania Trump
Yeah.
by impersonating her. And you did, I mean, a ton. How many videos did you do as Melania during the Trump?
It feels like 85,000 million. Yeah, I did so many because I did a few different like series. Fantasy Melania. I did a fake accountability group with a Sarah Sanders impersonator and someone who played Stephen Miller, and then I did like just Melania, Be Best Melania, and then and Melania Thunk, where I took starter quotes and like put them over Melania just thinking in different places, so which worked perfectly. And so, um, and then, so I had all of these, and honestly, I still have a few of the Melania Thunks that need to go up. That's how many I freaking made. And
Hey, I
then
mean,
we would
he
get
just
on the,
he just announced he's
yeah,
gonna run again, so I'm sure you're gonna have tons of time to
right,
put up more Melania stuff if you want, or have you
right.
retired her?
Well, so I'm gonna probably post some of the funk stuff because it's just Melania being mystified by the shittiness of everything, which is just funny to think. But then that's it. I think
You're
that's
done.
it.
You're gonna
Um,
step away
I'm
like his daughter, who's not gonna be involved this runaround.
right. I love it. They're just so selfish. They're just like anytime it's not in their personal sense, and for just father do not care. And also Ivanka and Jared, it's like they've already grifted enough money. Like, what do they give a fuck? They can
Right.
live off that forever, so they
Yeah.
can live their lifestyle in Miami because they can't go anywhere. I mean, I think
It's
that eventually her thing, I would imagine, because I also did a Ivanka impersonation too. So I got into her head, which was a fucking twisted, like, cavalcade of funhouse nut place. She's really sad. She's really sad. Melania is sad, but she's also kind of evil. Ivanka is sad too, but she's so abused. It's so sad. She was so abused. Anyway, fuck these people. Why are we giving anyway?
so. In addition to all the things
Yeah.
that you're doing during COVID, something big happened to you that then started a whole new show. So tell me all about what happened during COVID. You had, I'll set it up a little bit. You grew up in Howard Beach.
I did.
Grew up in Howard Beach, and you always felt like you didn't look like the rest of your family.
Right. I didn't look like the rest of my family. It was pretty extreme. I mean, even in the heights, like I'm 5'10", and my dad's 5'5", and my mom's 5'2", and my sister is 4'10".
4'10".
Yeah. So I was like walking around like Will Ferrell and Elf for most
Yeah.
of my life. Yeah. And it was just so extreme. And they would just have to like make stuff up to just justify. They had to get really creative in their lying. They were like, yeah, the Vikings invaded Sicily, so yeah, recessive genes. I'm like, ugh, what the fuck? So I found out I did an ancestry test. I did it a few years ago, and I didn't think the results were accurate because I just thought a $99 test can really tell you all about your life. And you're like, oh, it can. For everyone wondering, and it is accurate. I met a PhD in genetics who told me that.
Yeah.
And then I looked into the results, which I had kind of skimmed and was like, this doesn't make sense. But it's stupid. It's not real. And I found out that my dad wasn't my dad. And so that, it's a crazy thing is I was been doing stand up before I did two. Melania was like a blip in my comedy career. Like I did stand up and wrote about her and made videos about her like exclusively for like 2 to 3 years. And so before that, I was doing stand up as myself, and most of my material was all about like I don't look like anyone, and I don't know why. And my parents would come to it. And now, when I found out, so now when I went back to it, now it's almost like part two, like the finding out phase. So it's like I'm joking about knowing.
And I mean, you seem very well adjusted in all of this. A part of you always kind of knew that something was going on. So were you more prepared when the truth came out?
Right. I mean, in some ways, like some of my siblings, so we call them dibblings, donor conceived siblings.
Yes. How many of those have you found, Lauren?
We're 15.
You're 15
so far. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we're not sure how many there are of us because our donor who we met, he says he was donating for 10 years. Kind of, he thought the whole thing was hysterical. It was a little bit to spread his seed. He says it was for extra cash, but no. Then that's why, like, people, you're going to be disappointed because people who donated either like were like strapped for cash or they just thought it was cool to spread their seed. Very few are like, I just felt altruistically I wanted to help a few people. Like that is some of them, but a lot of them are like, yeah. So, Jim is great. I really think he's a great guy. And he donated for that, but donated for 10 years. And I don't know at what point they started freezing and at what point they started breaking it up.
Okay, yeah. So he could have maybe donated during a very small time, but then they take it and they make it last longer. So he may have only done it this many times, but then out of this many times, they can make this many.
And then they could divide it. So at some time, they started dividing the sperm. So that means if he donated 3 times, it could be up to 12 times. So you just don't know they're doing that and how they were able to divide it. So there might be, so we don't know how many people. Let's just say that. We don't know how many of us are there. Like, I think some people think 100. I don't think so, because the other thing is people forget is that reproductive, like when you do these things, they're not often successful. So it's not like every time you like throw it in, the doctor was like, and it like wasn't like baby. It's like my mom. She was a one and done, no hormones. She was just like, I am ready to be pregnant. Give me some sperm. She's like.
And you were the oldest of your siblings, so they all didn't know.
They didn't know. There was and I think that created some definitely created some like weirdness and tension and like because we're all being gaslit. We were just like, like I understand when America was being gaslit by the Trump administration. I was like, oh, this just feels like growing up. It just feels very great when you're like something is going on. You need to tell me the truth, and they're like, you're crazy for thinking that. Like nothing's going on. What are you talking about? So yeah, I think it like affected them in a negative way. Probably they don't go to therapy, so they'll never figure that out. But I'll do therapy for them and just say yes.
So this has come up a lot in your talks. Well, if you've talked to people, like if you were talking to a therapist, did you suspect family secrets a long time ago that you've been kind of like thinking about, and then this came out, and you're kind of like, all of my suspicions were true. Now are you kind of like, what other things are true that I've been, thinking about all this?
Totally. Like, so, I told the therapist like a bunch of years ago, I was like, something is wrong with me, and I just don't understand what it is, and then also have this thing that I don't look like my family, they won't tell me. And she's like, oh my God, you're so adopted. And then it was apparently wasn't that. And I asked my dad, like, Dad, am I adopted? He's like, Lauren, your mother was pregnant. I was there. I'm like, okay, was someone else? Because I don't know.
So he answered in very truthful, coded, technical ways.
Yep, they both did. They lied by omission. So, because at the time it was so shameful, and the doctors also told them to lie. And then there's confirmation, but there's like this thing where you lie, and then it starts to become the truth, which is called the illusory truth effect, otherwise known as the Tucker Carlson method, where you hear a lie enough, you tell a lie, and then all of a sudden that's your reality.
Yeah, what they do, I think, is you keep lying to people, and then they tell that lie to other people, and then they tell that lie to other people, and then other people are like, yeah, I'm hearing this all over the place, it has to be true, but they're actually just hearing one person lie, and then like 20 people repeat it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. What happened. So yeah. So for sure, that I definitely had found out. And then when I keep finding out more stuff about my family, like they don't. Then more like my mom, like I confronted her and was like, I know, basically, we need to talk about this. And she was resistant, and then we started talking about it. And later that night, she started just spitting out these family secrets, and this one abused this one, and this. It was like, just like an unearthing. And my dad's been spilling some secrets too. I found out that my dad believes so much in instilling Catholic values in my family that he worked really hard to get 4 kids through Catholic school by getting a second job as a loan shark. Yeah, right? My mom was like, what? We had an in-ground pool. We had a pool in Queens, and yet you your father worked at a cashier at Hunts Point Tillman and Market in the Bronx. Give me a break.
Interesting. And this is where you draw a lot of your character stuff from. I mean, you have a couple of characters that are very much influenced by family members, kind of. Yeah. Right.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, that's how I first started doing characters, was because it was like I would watch these people. I never felt like I was part of anything. You have a thing called genealogical bewilderment. Like you're not even sure what you look like because you don't know where you came from. So I would just that's why I'm able to like morph into other people, because I don't even know. I could drop what I have now because I don't know what it is. So, I would watch these people in my family, especially the women, just totally like backbite each other and drag each other down. It's like and also being like so. The patriarch was totally like fucking them over, and then just started inhabiting that and making fun of it.
Yeah. So you took all of this. You took all this new content that you found out recently. This is all during the quarantine COVID time.
Right.
You found out all of these family secrets, and then because you are a comedic performer, you mined it for content, and now you have a new show that you've done the show one time already?
I did it one time, and then I have done it it was in other it was called other things. I did it twice more, called something else when I was incubating it, and then eventually we were like, the show needs to be called Ancestry.comedy, and we had figured out a lot about what the show needs to be, and then we did it. It was a Time Out New York weekend pick, and we did it in October at Parkside Lounge, and it went really well. That was exciting.
So it's called Ancestry.comedy, and people can go to Ancestry.comedy.com.
Yep. And you can sign up for our email list and then know when we're doing it, because we're going to take it on the road as well eventually. It's going to become a podcast as well. There's like a lot going on with it.
It's a whole thing.
The whole thing.
You should be able to benefit from this family trauma that you've had to endure. It's like, what can I make something positive out of this?
Right, because it's so. And then other people. I mean, the show that I did is a variety show because the thing that I found in this, that a lot of people just feel disconnected from their family and their roots, and so it's more of a community in space to be able to talk about that. So we have, we always have like a room for someone to tell their story about what they found. Because
of ancestry, genealogy tests, and all these things, this is happening to a lot of people. And because people donated maybe in one location, like your donor guy was in the New York City metropolitan
Yeah,
area.
in Brooklyn. So
He was
all
in
of our
Brooklyn.
moms had a common thread of being in Brooklyn at some point.
So are all of your new what are they called? Dibblings?
Dibling.
So are all of your dibblings in the New York general area that you found, or in the
Some
Northeast?
of them. Some of them are like on the East Coast. Some two are in Texas.
You have all kinds of places to crash now. If you're
Yeah,
traveling,
it's
you can,
great.
you're like, hey, you got a couch? We're kind of related now. So
Yeah,
now
yeah,
you've
we're all.
got you've got many organs to call in for if you ever need anybody. You're like, I got all these people that have my DNA.
Yeah, there's a
I can
lot of
call
us.
around for a kidney. It's nice to have a little pool, you know.
It is nice. I'd say the best thing, I mean, it's really nice to meet Jim. It did kind of answer a lot of questions for me about like where I get certain things from. But the most fun thing is meeting my siblings because they're like your friends that are like your people. And I just saw my half sister. Well, I mean, all my siblings are half now, but I saw my sister Kristen run the New York City Marathon recently. So it was really nice to just like be able to like be proud of people. But all of my siblings are incredible people and doing interesting things. We all have this similar Spencer. Spencers are very like unique and very like the Spencer line I come from is like super unique and super like not able to deal with authority. All of us are either like I'm the only artist, but people are like artsy,
Yeah.
doing their own thing. Like people have their own companies or they're freelance. There's a few people with like one's a doctor and one works for the National Science Foundation. So I guess that's a little more like traditional. But even like the one who works for the National Science Foundation is a little bit like unconventional in some ways. So yeah,
And
we really
are you
break the
guys
mold.
getting together in a regular dinner cookout? Is there a group chat? Like, what kind of a is there?
There is a group chat. There was. I remember when COVID was closed, we were trying to figure out like what was going on, triangulating information because that couldn't tell us the truth. So we were all in a Facebook Messenger group. Like so, New York is closing down. People were like talking about this thing called COVID. No one really knew, but we were still doing open mics. We were like, fuck it,
Yeah.
like germ down, like COVID joke down and germ swap. We thought it was so funny, and I'm in the back of an open mic, which is like maybe the best of the worst places to deal with this stuff because open
Yeah.
mics can be so toxic. And I'm in there in a Facebook Messenger group trying to like talk to my siblings about this shit. It's so crazy. So we're all in a big messenger group. We can share information. We bring new people as they people want to be part of us and know us, and some people don't. There is two people in Staten Island, one of which is never telling a soul. We contacted her and she figured it out, and her brother, she's never telling her brother, and she's never telling her parents she knows.
How do you find people who aren't
Uh,
looking?
well, the people would be on Ancestry. So if they do an
Okay.
Ancestry DNA
Oh,
test,
they can see your tree, and all these people are related to you by like a sibling relationship.
and they'll tell you DNA matches.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
There are
I
no
mean, this
more
person
no more
sent
secrets. No
no
more
more secrets. Oh
secrets.
my God, no. And even if you think like I'm gonna be smart and like put an alias name, fuck you. I have your sibling on there. I have your aunt. I will find you. Like not that I'm
Yeah.
looking. I don't care. I have 15. I have honestly too many. I'm not gonna go snooping. But like anyone who thinks they're
It's a lot of
unfindable on
Christmas
Ancestry,
presents. Everyone's getting
uh,
Starbucks gift cards because
yeah,
too much.
too
Everyone's
much.
getting socks. You're gonna get like a big 20 pack of tube socks. Everyone gets socks.
This is dibbling season
It's sibling
because this
season.
is this is when everyone gets like Friday is coming. What is it called? Cyber not Friday.
Black
Cyber
Friday,
Monday.
Cyber
Black
Monday. Yep.
Friday. Black Friday is the day when everyone gets those ancestry kits, so they'll do them.
Oh yeah, they're all gonna look things up and find out their family secrets.
So by January 15th, I'll have like 5 new dibblings. crazy.
So do you guys get like? Would you get together for a Friendsgiving, like a Diblingsgiving, where you?
Well, I tried to get everyone. We're trying. We did some, some people with kids, which is always
Ugh,
like
the
a
worst.
bummer and sort of like, oh,
You get to be a crazy auntie to a bunch of dibbling children.
right, which would be fun.
I
Which
can
would
see
be
you
fun.
being a crazy aunt.
Oh, I am. I have two from my brother I was raised with. Yeah, I'm like the crazy Aunt Lauren.
I bet you show up in that pencil costume or many other costumes that you have. Do you have other big crazy mascot costumes? I could see you doing that in character stuff.
Yeah.
I saw you doing a performance when you wore the pencil costume, and it was all about being a pencil, but it was like this pencil world, and it was like dating other.
Yes. So yes, I had the pencil date on a date. That's one place I put the pencil on a date and trying to having trouble dating and all the troubles in the dating world, and everyone's into open pencil case relationships, and the pencil just wants to be basic and cuddle between the couch cushions with her erasers.
It was so funny. And I've seen you perform a couple of times now, and you always kind of shine on a bill with many people. Like, you were always kind of a standout. I think just something about, like, you were a very confident performer, and you stay in character, like, so, like, you really commit. Like, the character that you did of the woman giving birth, and she's concerned that, like, she's like an older lesbian, and she's very progressive, and she's giving birth, and I guess it's like a donor situation, and she becomes really, really worried that it's going to be a boy who's like a MAGA Republican.
Want to be space football? Oh my God! Want to be straight chase football and support Israel? Oh, maybe I can send him to an orphanage in a red state.
And you're doing the whole character, but you're on the floor. Your legs are up. You're giving birth. You have the whole thing with the belly and these blankets, and it's like very physical. Like, it's very physical comedy, but you're doing it with no stress. At least for the audience could tell. Like, you're doing a very masterful physical comedy job while rattling off all of this dialogue, like, effortlessly. You're welcome. You're a pro. You're a pro, Lauren, and everyone.
Wow. Well, that means a lot,
everyone
Marty.
should go out and see you. And
you've seen a lot of people, so that means a lot.
You've got a podcast also called, is it called Reconcile the Aisle?
Yep, it's called Reconcile the Aisle.
Tell me all about that podcast, because there's been many episodes of that. You've had lots and lots of people on, and what is Reconcile the Aisle about?
Yes. So Reconcile the Aisle started as just kind of recognizing during, especially like during the Trump years, there's a lot of like disconnect and people who would follow me, which is like other weirdos. You're like feel super disconnected from your family, and you're not sure how you can bridge the gap. And so I started that. Season 1 I brought on experts from like Loretta Ross to like professors from all these different colleges, universities around. I would read their books, so they always loved me because I gave like great interviews, because I would read it and give like an in-depth interview of everything. I had people who worked with white supremacists on. I had them on twice. It's really cool negotiation. We really like dug deep into a lot of different things about like how to deal with this world we were living in. Then season 2, as the Trump years sort of stopped, then it became more about like interviewing media creators and trying to understand what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. So yeah, I've been able to interview like really cool people, like Laura Murphy, who's directed a bunch of stuff, including Elijah Schlesinger's sketch show, to the showrunner of Strangers with Candy, Jay Martell, and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, it's been really cool.
That's exciting. And that you have something coming out for, are you doing a season 3? And do you have people lined up?
Well, I'm not sure, because Ancestry.comedy might become a podcast. And
you can do so many podcasts, Lauren. You are such a busy person. I'm sure you could juggle 10 to 20 more projects.
Right. No problem. So what I might do is I might make it one of those things like a lot of people do. They like sunset doing it regularly and make it just something like, hey, I meet someone interesting and I think like I'm going to do, for instance, I just met someone who works for Time Out and she's written a lot about like creating community through events. And I was like, oh, that would be such a great conversation relevant to the themes of the podcast. Let's talk about it. Yeah. It's like relative to like to an ancestry.comedy. So let's interview her and they'll do it. So and whenever it's like one of those things, it'll be like, we're sunsetting and doing it regularly, but every time I meet someone and I'm like, this could be cool, we'll throw it up. I think that's what might happen.
That's good. And it's a good, maybe, I mean, it's a great property. So maybe you could even do live shows at a theater. I love seeing, like, they do podcast recordings live at the Bell House or at Caveat or all kinds of fun places. As long as there's a good conversation, people love talking, you know, in big soft chairs, and then they put the microphones up and...
Yeah, which is really fun. Have you ever done a Talkward live podcast?
I did one for, there was a festival called the Satire and Humor Festival, and it was a weekend event, and it was a bunch of different, much bigger deal people on a Saturday and Sunday at Caveat and at a couple other places. And then the Friday before the big stuff, I did a little thing that people could come to, because people were coming in for the weekend from out of town. So if they were coming in there was like a Friday happy hour to say hi to everybody. But before the Friday happy hour, if you got there early, you could go to a live Talkward episode that we did over at my office down in the WeWork. They had an event space, and I had I had like a little audience. We set up chairs, and there was video. We were running video live stream, and it was Jason Chatfield, who's a New Yorker cartoonist, and Bob Eckstein, who's a New Yorker cartoonist, and they're both like author illustrators. And we just did a big chat with them, and that was a lot of fun. Cool. But you know, it's tough to do the live show. It is a lot of technical stuff. You have to constantly worry about all the other things failing, because whenever there's like an audience, there's always this possibility of disaster. And I feel like we have that less when we're in our little boxes.
We do. It's easier in this situation where we can redo it if we need to. And also just it's more under your control. I run shows down in Little Italy regularly, which is like this restaurant called Lunella. It's the only restaurant owned by a female in the history of Little Italy. And they give me their back room to do whatever. And it's a really nice space to just experiment because it's low stakes and free. What is really nerve-wracking is like it's so low-key. I have to bring the systems.
Yeah, so that's the
they
thing.
Have
if like when I was doing I have a stand-up comedy, it was a monthly called Guaranteed Delivery, and I'm still finding a location. So I had it for 3 years. I had it at this place called the Mail Room, and I brought down, they had like a sound system, but it wasn't like good for stand-up. Like I wanted my own like board, and I wanted to control the audio input. So every time I do a show, I would lug like a soundboard in. I would bring my own mics. I would bring my own cords. I would do all the stuff. I installed like my own lights because their lighting was just like inadequate for having a stand-up. So I actually got like 2 like spots that I hung from the ceiling, and so it was just like a lot. And then I would have to set all that up, and then at the end of the show, I had to break everything down, pack everything up. So it was exhausting because I was just me. So I was like my own roadie. And you know, and like you don't want it all to, and like so then you're running the live show, you have the the comedians, but then on top of it you have all the audio visual problems that are constantly happening. It's fun though. It's fun.
I know it's fun. I found that it took me a few shows and running my own both at Lunella and Ancestry.comedy. Is that it took me a few, but now I feel like more comfortable because I'm just like, it's not only me who has to figure this out, like the sound guy, like having to have more people there, like having the sound. Well, there's a guy at Parkside luckily that comes with the venue, but having someone who's in charge of that, and that's their job, and I don't have to worry because that's.
Well, I've been going to a couple of shows. I mean, going to that Young Ethel's up in Brooklyn. It's funny because I went to that show. And I was sitting in this bar, and I was like, this bar is very familiar to me, because I've been in this area for 20 years now, because I'm old. And I was like, this bar is very familiar to me. I'm like, I think I've been in this bar before, but it was called something else. And it was. So this bar called Young Ethel's used to be called Royale. And I used to go there all the time, because my friend, his now wife, was the main bartender manager at this like new bar which was like 2004, and they had done all the menus and stuff. And he runs a big time animation studio, but he's also an illustrator at Augenblick Studios. So I was in this bar for the young Ethels, as an old person, and everyone's just like young and hip, and I'm like, I remember when I was young and hip, and this bar was called Royale, and I like Googled it. I'm like, oh, this place. And the cool thing about the young Ethels is they have a good back room with a soundboard,
Yes.
and they have good audio visual.
Yep.
And I remember that because I was like, oh, this place comes with a great sound system and a good stage.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, which is something that you need.
But when I was there for the Halloween show that you were on, the people running that were having a problem with the board. Something wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there watching them struggle, and I was like, I've had this problem before. And I helped, and I fixed, and then it worked, and I just sat back down.
That was very nice of you.
I just sat back down.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, it's awful. I mean, I've had, I was doing for the first iteration of Ancestry Comedy. It was called Gangbang, and we did it at Sarah Mouse.
So subtle.
great.
So subtle.
So subtle. It was really subtle. What's funny is that it wasn't subtle, but yet everyone still like missed the themes of what I was going for with like DNA, surprise, and stuff. So literally, I found out through this process of Ancestry Comedy, you have to make it so obvious. You have to make it, put it on. But anyway, people loved the concept, but they wasn't sure what it was. So then, maybe another show, Marty, I'll do called Gangbang. So we did it at Sarah Mouse, and the mic wasn't working throughout the show. It would like be
that's the worst.
Awful.
Yeah.
So I know. Bring an extra cord.
Always
bring an
have
extra cord.
multiple microphones. Always have multiple cords. I put on a show. One of my guaranteed deliveries. I had the most amazing. It was like Matthew Broussard. It was Rosebud Baker. It was an amazing bill, right?
Oh wow.
So not only was the microphone fucking up, and kept going out, and it was annoying, but then there was also a group of drunk people who were screaming and loud, and it was like this group of women, and they were loaded, and it was bad. So not only was the mic annoying all the comics, but it got to the point where both Matthew Broussard and Rosebud Baker, I think she almost jumped over a crowd of people to beat these women up. Like, it was so tense. But it's so much fun. Like, live shows are so much fun because, like, they just, you do your best to, you can do everything you can to get it to the point of starting. And then once it starts, it's just all downhill. Or uphill. Like, it could be wonderful, but chances are things are going to go a little bit downhill, and you just kind of have to do your best. You're just like, okay, I've done everything I can. Let's start this son of a bitch, and then it just explodes and starts rolling down the hill, and you're like, this is a disaster.
You'd have to. Are you hosting?
I host. I host when I didn't have I did have someone who was hosting, who was a professional, and he was wonderful. So when he was in town, Kevin McCaffrey would host, and he's a great comic, great host. And then Alex Kahart hosted a couple of times. Wendy Starling hosted a couple of times. So but then a couple of times people were all busy, or they dropped out at last minute because they had a conflict. And then I hosted. So then I hosted a couple, and I did fine.
Okay, I believe that. I would think you do. Yeah. Well, if you ever need one, I'm a.
I'd love to have you host. Yeah, I introduce. So I would introduce the host, and then I'm done, and then that's fine. I don't need to get up there and warm up the crowd. I remember I did one show, and there wasn't a host because the host dropped out or something, and I was like, I'll host. And Carmen Lagala, Mark Norman, all these people were on this bill. It was a great show, and Mark's like. And he's like, who's the host? I'm like, Kevin had to go. Kevin's out of town, so I'm just gonna host it. It's gonna be fine. And he's like, okay. He's like, but who's going to warm up the crowd? I'm like, I can tell a couple of jokes. He's like, okay. And I was like, who wants to go first? And they were all just like. So Justin Herman was in the audience, and he was just there to like hang out. And they're like, and Justin was like, Marty, I can. Why don't you let me warm up the crowd? Yeah. And get things going. And I was like, yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea. And Mark Norman was like, yeah, I think it'd be a good idea if Justin started the show. And I was like, got it. Everything's wonderful. And the show was great. And Justin's hilarious. And he did an amazing job of saving the show from me. But, yeah.
Oh, I went to clown school, and I did the Gallier clown school, and I made the pilgrimage to France, which a lot of people, the performers in New York do. But the guy says, he's like this old guy who teaches clown music. like Philippe Gallet is like, oh, Sam, we need to save the show. You saved the show.
This is when, and you went to clown school, but not clown school Ringling Brothers, clown school in Paris, in France, which is much more like the old school art of clowning, which is nothing to do with wearing the costume. It's much more about acting and using your body to make the comedy.
Whatever you can, and it's like you need to just have the pleasure in your eyes when you come out, and stop trying to impart your ideas on people, because otherwise you're a fucking fascist. That was basically what I learned. No one gives a shit about your shitty ideas. They give a shit about what light you're going to bring to them. That was what I got from.
And you brought the light. You passed the test of the snooty French clown man.
In moments, I wouldn't call him snooty as much as grumpy, grumpy son of a bitch. I love Philippe, but he's just like boom, like he didn't care. There were people in that room with Netflix specials, and there were people in that room with like accolades up the ass, and in that room you were equal, and he didn't care if you weren't bringing the light. He would like bringing the fun. He would kick you off stage. Boom, 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 boom. Boring.
So what is this thing
is it
called?
Boring or is it fucking?
So this is like comedy camp for people, and it's like how long is the program?
Well, they have a year program, and they also have like you could take sections of that year, which are like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and then they have summer programs that are 2 weeks, and then they sometimes have 1 week. But why would you go all that way for 1 week? Even 2 felt like not enough.
So you did 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like comedy camp, but like
it's great
with amazing, talented people coming from all over the world.
Right, and everyone's humbled, so you're all like, there's no ego, because if you try to come in that, well, in the beginning, we usually open every class with like doing this game, and if he detected you had any ego, he would make sure you got beaten. If you lost the game, you got beaten. It's hard to explain. You got beaten a little bit.
It's like a comedy. It's like a comedy battle royale where you're battling other people to the death with jokes. No,
not even with jokes. It was just more of a who's gonna. I can't describe it. It's more of it's a simple game, and he's looking around the room, and like if you have any ego or you're trying to do something, he's trying to warm you up. He wants to humble you before you start.
Okay.
And most of the time you're gonna lose. Like one time I got beaten 3 times in a row because he just said it wasn't enough.
I need to check this out because so it's like a comedy. So it's like a comedy performance game.
Well, okay. So basically, it's Simon Says.
Okay, Simon Says.
And when you fuck up, Simeon says stop, go, and then you go, and then he notices who, and then we all turn each other in, and he says you have to get 5 kisses. All right, that's what he would say, and you have to ask people in the room for kisses. No one's kissing each other. It's just like, can I get 2 kisses? Can I get 3? And then you start fucking with each other. No, yes, or maybe, and maybe's a no. And then if you don't get your kisses, you get beaten.
Okay.
So the assistant comes over and he like musses your hair and he pinches your back and then he hits you in the butt with a shoe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I loved it. And I thought it was amazing.
Well, it sounds amazing. Transformative.
Well, it was humbling. The main lesson is don't come in here with ego. Like if you are one of those like egotistical comedians and you walk in there, it's not going to work for you.
I want to. And what's this called?
It's the equal. It's Philippe Gallet. If you look Philippe Gallet Paris,
I will look this up.
It's great. I mean, I've gone there. Sacha Baron Cohen is one of the most famous graduates.
Oh, okay. So they have a impressive alumni base.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
And then I went to that show. Mike Reese from The Simpsons wrote a play, and it was at the Neighborhood Playhouse, and that is a acting school that is run by or started by that. Is it Meisner?
Meisner, yeah.
And he does the Meisner method.
Yes.
Of acting.
Yes.
And then I mentioned it to you, and I didn't know anything about it, but you knew all about it.
Yes.
And is that the kind of acting you do?
I mean, I don't know. I just try to do a good job at this point, just with everything I've learned over the years. But like, I've done some groundlings because in the pandemic they went online, and groundlings is very Meisnerish.
Okay. So that's kind of, is it like a method acting?
Yeah, it's a lot about like repetitive like using repetition and it's different than method. Um, yeah, I guess that's how they like in the repetition improv type way. Basically, a way to get you spontaneous is
Okay.
Meisner.
So it's
Using
an
some
activity
repetition.
to make you more real as your character.
I guess so. Yeah, that's how you can say it. Yeah,
Well, I just did say it, so that's
you
what it
did
is.
say it. You did say,
Uh,
Marnie.
I'm
You
doing my
defined it.
best. Lauren LoGiudice, people can go to your at Instagram and Twitter at Lauren Logie.
Yeah, and my website, laurenlogie.com.
LaurenLogie.com.
So how easy.
So we'll be looking for the Ancestry.comedy coming out soon enough,
Yep.
and then in the short term, you've got 1,000 different shows all over New York City at all times. What's coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Well, if you're around during the holidays, I have a show called the Misfit Mingle Holiday Show. And if you go to my website, laurenlogie.com, it'll be listed there. And that's going to be really fun because we have pictures with Santa. I have this clown, Kristen Commodore. Krista Commodore has this character she's bringing to be Santa. And then before the show starts, we'll do pictures with Santa. And then we're going to have an ugly sweater contest. And then there's going to be door prizes, and it's going to be really fun.
And when's that?
So, you should go. That is the December. Yay! This is I'm awful. It's the Wednesday, December 15th. I think that is Wednesday, December 14th.
14th.
It's gonna be so fun, Marnie. I feel like you have
Well,
an
then
ugly
I will come. Send me an invite. Let me know where it is. I will go. December 14th.
Yeah.
Ugly sweaters and holiday misfit party.
Yeah,
Holiday misfit party. I belong at a holiday misfit party, I think.
I think so.
Thank you so much. All right, it was wonderful talking to you today, Lauren. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on Talkward. And everyone should follow Lauren at Lauren Logie and go to laurenlogie.com and check out her ancestry.comedy.com show, which is coming out soon. And everyone over the holidays, I hope you take your ancestry.com test and maybe you'll find a dibbling of your own.
And maybe we'll be siblings. Yay!
Maybe you'll find out that Lauren is a half sibling of yours, and you can get on that group chat and make all kinds of new friends that you never wanted, but then you have. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye, Lauren.